The Galactic Council had spent 300 years studying every inhabited world in known space. They had cataloged peaceful garden worlds where beings lived in harmony for millennia. They had mapped aggressive warrior planets where entire species fought with honor and strategy. They had even documented the rare challenge worlds where life existed despite hostile conditions. But Earth broke every classification system they had. The initial surveys were clear. A class 1-2 Deathworld, completely uninhabitable. Violent weather systems that could level cities, tectonic activity that reshaped continents, radiation bombardment from a barely stable star. Toxic atmospheric composition, predator species so aggressive they hunted for sport, not survival. Microscopic life forms that could kill in hours. And worst of all, a gravity well so intense it would crush most galactic species on contact. The computers unanimously agreed, nothing intelligent could possibly evolve on such a nightmare planet. The computers were wrong. When the first human ship appeared at the edge of Kepler Station, every alien aboard felt the same primal terror their ancestors had known when facing apex predators. These weren't just survivors of a death world. They were something far more terrifying. They were what a death world created when it wanted to fight back. Commander Zixtal of the Galactic Survey Division had seen many strange things in his 40-year career, but nothing had prepared him for the readings coming from his ship's sensors. The massive vessel approaching Kepler Station defied every known principle of spacecraft design. "Sir, the approaching ship is..." "It's not following standard approach vectors," reported Lieutenant Velnar, her forearms dancing across the control panel with increasing urgency. "It's coming in fast, very fast, and showing no signs of deceleration." Zixtal's mandibles clicked together nervously. In all his years monitoring the Outer Rim, no unauthorized ship had ever approached Kepler Station. The massive space facility served as the first point of contact for any new species seeking to join the Galactic Council. It was heavily defended, staffed with representatives from 47 different worlds, and equipped with the most advanced technology known to galactic civilization. "Have they responded to our standard greeting protocols?" Zixtal asked, his breathing apparatus hissing softly. "Negative, sir. We've broadcast in all known languages, mathematical sequences, even tried musical tones." "Nothing." "But sir," Velnar paused, her large black eyes reflecting the blue glow of her instruments. "Their ship is unlike anything in our databases. The hull appears to be made from some kind of metal alloy we've never seen, and the energy readings are off the charts." Zixtal moved to his own station, his 6 legs carrying him smoothly across the bridge. As he reviewed the sensor data, his breathing grew more rapid. The approaching vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of their largest dreadnoughts, but it moved with the grace and speed of a fighter craft. Most disturbing of all, it showed clear signs of battle damage across its hull, yet continued functioning as if nothing had happened. "Sir, incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Threx, his crystalline body chiming softly as data flowed through him. "But it's not coming through our standard channels. They're using some kind of narrow-band frequency we've never encountered." "Put it through," Zixtal ordered, straightening his posture as was proper when making first contact with a new species. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that made every being on the bridge instinctively step backward. The face looking back at them belonged to a creature from their worst nightmares. 2 eyes, positioned forward on the skull like those of a predator, scanned the bridge with an intelligence that seemed to catalog every weakness. The creature's mouth was partially hidden behind some kind of technological apparatus, but they could see enough to know it contained teeth designed for tearing flesh. Most unnervingly, the being's skin appeared to be scarred in multiple places, suggesting it had survived numerous violent encounters. "Greetings," the creature said, its voice carrying through the communication system with an odd accent none of them recognized. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Indomitable. We're requesting permission to dock and establish formal contact with your governing body." Zixtal felt his breathing apparatus working overtime as he processed what he was hearing. The creature spoke Galactic Standard, but with a pronunciation that suggested it had learned the language recently. More importantly, it had mentioned something called Earth, a planet name that appeared nowhere in their extensive databases. "Unknown vessel," Zixtal began carefully. "I am Commander Zixtal of Kepler Station. We welcome peaceful contact with your species. However, our records show no planet called Earth in any charted system. From where do you come?" The human's face showed what appeared to be amusement, though the expression was alien and somewhat disturbing to the assembled crew. "Commander, you might want to sit down for this. Earth is located in the Sol system, approximately 26,000 light-years from your current position. According to our records, Your people classified it as Survey Zone 7, Alpha 9. Every being on the bridge turned to look at Velmar, who was frantically accessing the survey databases. After several moments, her face went pale, and she looked up at Zixtal with obvious fear. Sir, I found it. Survey Zone 7, Alpha 9 was classified as uninhabitable over 300 years ago. Class of boat, Fae. 1, 2, Deathworld. Completely sterile. No possibility of intelligent life evolution. Captain Chen's expression became even more unsettling as she continued. Well, Commander, your survey was partially correct. Earth is indeed what you would call a death world. The gravity is crushing, the weather systems are violent beyond anything you've likely encountered, and the local wildlife has been trying to kill everything else on the planet for millions of years. What your survey missed was that all of this made us stronger. Zixtal found himself having trouble breathing. A death world species making contact was unprecedented in galactic history. Every simulation, every theoretical model suggested that such beings would be either primitive savages or so alien that communication would be impossible. Yet here was a creature that not only spoke their language but had somehow traveled across the galaxy to find them. Captain Chen, Zixtal said slowly, our protocols require that any new species undergo a series of evaluations before being granted access to galactic civilization. This includes technological assessments, cultural compatibility studies, and biological safety protocols. Given the unprecedented nature of your origins, these evaluations may take considerable time. The human's response chilled every being on the bridge. She smiled, revealing those predator teeth in full display. Commander, I appreciate your position, but you should know that we're not here seeking membership in your civilization. We're here to inform you that we're already part of this galaxy, whether you recognize it or not. The question isn't whether we meet your standards. The question is whether your civilization is ready to coexist with us. Before Zixtal could respond, his tactical officer, a heavily armored Kraxan warrior named Gorvex, interrupted with alarm in his voice. Sir, we're detecting multiple energy signatures appearing throughout the system. Unknown vessels are decloaking all around us. The view screen switched to a tactical display, revealing dozens of ships emerging from what appeared to be empty space. Each vessel bore similar design characteristics to the Indomitable, and each showed the same battle damage that spoke of countless violent encounters. Captain Chen's voice continued calmly through the communication channel. Commander, allow me to introduce the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet of the United Earth Space Command. We've been operating in this region of space for the past 18 months, conducting what you might call a cultural assessment of our own. Zixtal's worst fears were beginning to materialize. You've been observing us for how long? Long enough to understand your civilization quite well. Your people have lived in relative peace for millennia, which is admirable. You've created stable governments, eliminated scarcity, and built impressive technological achievements. Unfortunately, you've also grown complacent. Your military capabilities are minimal, your response protocols are outdated, and your security measures wouldn't stop a determined child from Earth. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the increasingly rapid breathing of its occupants. Gorvex, despite being from a warrior culture, was staring at the tactical display with something approaching awe. Sir, their fleet positioning is perfect. They could destroy this entire station without taking a single casualty. Captain Chen seemed to hear this comment as her image reappeared on the main screen. Officer Gorvex, your assessment is correct, but you've misunderstood our intentions. We didn't come here to destroy anything. We came here to join the galactic community as equals. The fact that we could eliminate every military installation in this sector before you could mount a response is simply a demonstration that your current defensive strategies need updating. Zixtal's mind raced as he tried to process the implications. A species from a death world had not only achieved interstellar travel, but had been studying galactic civilization for over a year without being detected. Their technology was clearly superior, their military capabilities overwhelming, and their strategic thinking far beyond anything the Council had encountered. What do you want from us? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The human's expression softened slightly, though it remained unsettling. We want what any species wants, Commander. Recognition, respect, and the opportunity to contribute to something larger than ourselves. Humanity has spent its entire existence fighting for survival against a planet that actively tried to kill us. We've learned to adapt, to overcome, and to thrive under conditions that would destroy most species. We believe those skills could be valuable to a galactic community that may soon face challenges it's not prepared for. What kind of challenges? Velnar asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. Captain Chen's face took on a grim expression. Lieutenant, your long-range sensors have been detecting anomalous readings from the galactic core for the past 70 years, correct? Energy signatures that don't match any known phenomenon? Gravitational distortions that suggest massive objects moving in impossible patterns? Velnar nodded slowly. Yes, but our scientists believe they're natural phenomena we simply don't understand yet. We've sent probe ships into that region. What you're detecting isn't natural. There's something out there, something that makes Earth look like a peaceful garden world. And it's heading this way. The bridge erupted in shocked voices as crew members began talking over each other. Zixtal raised his hand for silence, his mind struggling to process yet another impossible revelation. You're saying there's a threat from the galactic core? I'm saying there's a threat that will reach the outer rim systems within the next 50 years. Your current military capabilities would last approximately 6 minutes against what's coming. Humanity has been preparing for this fight for the past century, ever since our deep space probes confirmed what we suspected. Zixtal looked around his bridge at the faces of beings from dozens of different worlds, all united in their fear and confusion. The peaceful galaxy they had known for millennia was suddenly revealed to be under threat from not just one but potentially 2 unknown forces. Captain Chen, assuming what you say is true, what do you propose we do? The human's smile returned, and for the first time it seemed less predatory and more reassuring. Commander, I propose we do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We adapt, we learn, and we prepare to fight. But first, we need to have a very long conversation about what your people think they know about warfare survival and what it really means to be alive in a hostile universe. As Captain Chen spoke, Zixtal realized that everything he had known about galactic civilization was about to change forever. The peaceful, orderly galaxy of his youth was gone, replaced by something far more complex and dangerous. And somehow, humanity, the nightmare species from the Deathworld called Earth, might be their only hope of survival. Communication channel closed, leaving the bridge of Kepler Station in stunned silence. Outside their windows, the human fleet waited patiently, their battle-scarred hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. They had come from the darkness between worlds, carrying with them the strength forged in the crucible of a planet that had tried to kill them every day of their existence. Now, they offered to share that strength with a galaxy that was about to discover just how much it needed their help. 3 days after first contact, the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on the capital world of Nexus Prime. Representatives from every major civilization sat in the massive amphitheater, their varied forms creating a rainbow of shapes, sizes, and colors that spoke to the diversity of galactic life. But today, that diversity felt fragile, threatened by the arrival of something none of them had prepared for. High Counselor Marichka, an elegant being whose crystalline form refracted light into beautiful patterns, called the session to order. Her voice resonated through the chamber with harmonious tones that usually brought peace to even the most heated debates. Today, however, her words carried an undertone of worry that everyone present could detect. Fellow beings of the Council, we gather in unprecedented circumstances. 3 days ago, Kepler Station made contact with a species calling themselves humans from a planet designated Earth in our survey records. Initial reports suggested this was impossible, as Earth was classified as a Class 1-2 Deathworld, with no potential for intelligent life. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Representative Tulvin of the Aquatic Collective raised one of his tentacles. High Counselor, surely this must be some kind of error in our records. Perhaps they originated from a different planet and simply claim this Earth as their homeworld? Before Marixka could respond, a new voice spoke from the chamber's entrance. Representative Tulvin, I can assure you that Earth is indeed our homeworld, and your records are entirely accurate about its hostile nature. Every head turned to see Captain Sarah Chen walking down the central aisle, flanked by 2 other humans. Her movement was unlike anything the assembled beings had ever witnessed. Where most galactic species moved with the careful efficiency of evolved herbivores, or the cautious alertness of prey animals, the humans moved with the fluid grace of apex predators. Their eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, cataloging threats and opportunities with an intensity that made several representatives instinctively shrink back. You were not invited to speak, protested Councillor Vexter of the Hierarchical Union, his insectoid form clicking in agitation. This is a closed session of the Galactic Council. Captain Chen stopped and turned her attention to Vextar, her expression neutral but somehow threatening. Councillor, with respect, you're discussing whether to recognize our species' right to exist in galactic society. I believe that gives us a certain interest in the proceedings. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the woman walking beside Chen, stepped forward. She was smaller than the captain, but somehow even more unsettling, her dark eyes holding an intelligence that seemed to pierce through every pretense. Ladies, gentlemen, and respected beings of various classifications, I am Dr. Rodriguez, humanities xenobiologist and cultural liaison. I've spent the last 72 hours studying your civilizations, and I have some observations I think you'll find enlightening. High Counselor Marixka's crystalline form flickered with colors indicating uncertainty. Dr. Rodriguez, while we appreciate your initiative, our procedures require proper diplomatic channels and extended evaluation periods before you decide whether we're dangerous, interrupted the third human who had been silent until now. Admiral Marcus Webb was clearly a military leader, his bearing radiating command authority despite being in a room full of potentially hostile aliens. Counselors, let me save you some time. Yes, we are dangerous. Extremely dangerous. The question you should be asking is not whether we pose a threat, but whether you can afford to make us your enemy when the real threat arrives. The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Several representatives began demanding explanations, while others called for the humans to be removed. Through the chaos, Representative Corlin of the Scientific Consortium managed to make herself heard. Admiral Webb, Captain Chen mentioned a threat from the Galactic Core during first contact. Our scientists have detected anomalous readings from that region, but nothing that suggests immediate danger. What information do you possess that we lack? Dr. Rodriguez activated a device that projected a three-dimensional hologram into the center of the chamber. The image showed the galaxy in stunning detail, with various systems marked in different colors. Counselors, this is what the galaxy looked like 50 years ago, according to your own sensor networks. The image shifted, showing subtle changes in energy patterns. This is what it looks like today. The assembled beings studied the projection with growing alarm. Even to non-specialists, the changes were obvious. Dark patches were spreading outward from the galactic core, and entire star systems showed energy signatures that defied explanation. We call them the Devourers, Admiral Webb said quietly. Humanity encountered their advanced scouts 30 years ago in the outer rim beyond your charted territories. We lost 3 colony worlds before we understood what we were facing. Counselor Drexmar of the Military Advisory leaned forward, his scaled form tense with professional interest. You fought them? What were their capabilities? Captain Chen's expression became grim. Counselor, imagine a species that views organic life the way you might view a mineral deposit to be harvested. They don't hate us, or fear us, or even particularly notice us as individuals. To them, we're simply raw materials to be processed into something more useful. The first colony they hit was New Geneva. Dr. Rodriguez continued, manipulating the hologram to show a specific star system. Population of 40,000 humans, completely self-sufficient with orbital defenses that could handle anything in our databases. The Devourer scout ship was approximately the size of a small asteroid. It didn't attack the defenses. It simply absorbed them. The hologram showed the progression of the attack in horrifying detail. The alien vessel had somehow converted defensive installations into extensions of itself, turning humanity's own weapons against the colony. Within hours, every artificial structure had been consumed and transformed into grotesque biomechanical hybrid constructs. The colonists? Asked Representative Lyandra of the Peaceful Alliance, her melodic voice trembling. Converted, Admiral Webb said flatly. The lucky ones died immediately. The others became part of the Devourer collective consciousness, their biological uniqueness preserved as their individuality was consumed. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Several representatives had gone pale, while others showed clear signs of distress in their species-specific ways. High Counselor Marixka's crystalline form had shifted to deep red patterns indicating extreme alarm. How did you survive such encounters? We learned, Captain Chen said simply. Earth taught us that survival requires adaptation, sacrifice, and the willingness to become something your enemy doesn't expect. The second colony they attacked was New Australia. This time, we were ready. The hologram shifted again, showing a different star system. This time, the human response was dramatically different. Instead of static defenses, mobile fleets engaged in hit-and-run tactics. Ground installations were designed to self-destruct rather than be captured. Most importantly, the humans had developed weapons specifically designed to disrupt the Devourer's conversion processes. We lost 60% of the colony, Dr. Rodriguez admitted, but the remaining 40% survived, and we learned something crucial. The Devourer's greatest strength is also their weakness. They assume that all organic species will respond to threats the same way they do, with logical efficiency and predictable tactics. Humans don't do logical or predictable, Admiral Webb said with what might have been pride. We do desperate, creative, and absolutely insane. When the third Devourer scout ship arrived at New Tokyo, they encountered something they'd never seen before. The hologram showed the third colony under attack, but this time the human response bordered on incomprehensible. Ships flew directly into enemy formations in apparent suicide runs, only to reveal themselves as elaborate decoys packed with exotic explosives. Ground forces used the Devourer's own conversion technology against them, creating hybrid weapons that confused their targeting systems. Most bizarre of all, human civilians actively participated in combat operations that should have been impossible for non-military personnel. The Devourers retreated after losing their entire advanced fleet, Captain Chen said. It was the first time in recorded history that they had encountered a species that fought back effectively. Counselor Vextar's clicking had taken on a rapid, agitated rhythm. This is all very dramatic, but what does it have to do with the Council? If this threat is as serious as you claim, surely your people are better equipped to handle it than our peaceful civilizations. Dr. Rodriguez turned to face him directly, and her expression made the insectoid being instinctively back away. Counselor, you misunderstand the situation entirely. Humanity could survive the Devourer invasion. We've been preparing for it our entire history. Every war, every disaster, every challenge on Earth taught us how to fight impossible odds and win. The problem, Admiral Webb continued, is that we're not the primary target. The Devourers are heading for the galactic core, where the highest concentration of intelligent life exists. Your core worlds, with their billions of peaceful beings and centuries of accumulated knowledge, represent exactly the kind of prize they're seeking. High Counselor Marixka's form had shifted through several color patterns before settling on a deep blue indicating profound thought.
You're suggesting that humanity could abandon this region of space and survive, but that we cannot.
We're suggesting something much more important, Captain Chen said. We're offering an alliance.
Humanity's survival capabilities combined with your technological achievements and resource base could create something the Devourers have never encountered before. A unified resistance that learns and adapts faster than they can overcome it. Representative Corlin leaned forward with scientific curiosity overriding her fear. What would such an alliance entail? Our species have very different approaches to conflict resolution. Rodriguez smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuinely warm rather than predatory. Counselor, that's exactly why it would work. Humanity brings experience in asymmetrical warfare, rapid adaptation, and the willingness to accept casualties in pursuit of victory. Your civilizations bring advanced technology, massive industrial capacity, and strategic thinking on a galactic scale. More importantly, Admiral Webb added, you bring something humanity has always struggled with, the ability to think beyond immediate survival. Humans excel at winning battles, but galactic civilization excels at building something worth preserving after the war is over. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversations as representatives discussed the proposal among themselves. Finally, Counselor Drexmar spoke for many when he asked, what assurance do we have that humanity won't simply become the next threat once the Devourers are defeated? Captain Chen was quiet for a long moment before answering. Counselor, Earth spent 4 billion years trying to kill us. It created ice ages that should have ended our species, predators that hunted us for sport, diseases that decimated our populations, and natural disasters that destroyed everything we built. And yet, when we finally gained the power to leave Earth behind forever, we chose to preserve it. She gestured to the hologram, which now showed Earth in all its hostile beauty. We could have strip-mined our homeworld for resources or terraformed it into something more comfortable. Instead, we declared it a protected biosphere and built our new colonies elsewhere. The planet that tried to kill us is now one of humanity's most treasured possessions. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. The question isn't whether humans can be trusted with power, Counselor. The question is whether you can afford to face what's coming without allies who understand what it means to fight for survival. High Counselor Marquezca rose from her seat, her crystalline form now displaying the complex light patterns that indicated a formal decision was being reached. The Council will recess for deliberation. Representatives will have 6 hours to consult with their governments and return with preliminary responses to humanity's proposal. As the council members began filing out, Admiral Webb called after them. Counselors, I want you to understand something very clearly. Humanity didn't come here seeking permission to exist or asking for protection. We came here offering help to civilizations that we believe deserve to survive. Whether you accept that help or not, we'll continue preparing for what's coming. Captain Chen nodded in agreement. The Devourer main fleet will reach this region of space within 50 years. With or without your alliance, humanity will be ready to fight them. The only question is whether we'll be fighting alone or alongside the greatest collection of diverse intelligences the galaxy has ever seen. As the chamber emptied, Dr. Rodriguez remained behind, studying the empty seats where the galaxy's leaders had just been contemplating decisions that would affect trillions of lives. The peaceful order that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was ending, whether through Devourer conquest or human alliance. The only question was whether galactic civilization would evolve quickly enough to survive what was coming, or whether the species from Earth would once again find themselves fighting alone against impossible odds. The hologram continued to rotate slowly in the center of the chamber, showing the dark patches spreading outward from the galactic core like a slow-motion infection. Time was running out, and every day of delay made the coming war more terrible, and victory less certain. 5 years after the Council's historic decision to accept humanity's alliance, the galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. The peaceful trade routes that had connected civilizations for millennia now carried weapons of war alongside cargo. Scientific research stations had become military academies where species that had never known conflict learned the brutal mathematics of survival. And at the center of it all, humans worked alongside aliens to build something unprecedented, a unified galactic defense force. General Sarah Chen, promoted from her captain's rank, stood in the war room of the massive space fortress humanity had built in the Kepler system. Around her, holographic displays showed the current status of defense preparations across 47 different worlds. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just a few years earlier. Aquatic collective engineers working with human marines to design amphibious assault craft, crystalline consortium scientists collaborating with Earth's weapons experts to create energy shields that could withstand Devourer conversion beams. General, we're receiving updates from the Outer Rim Defense Network, reported Commander Velnar, the same officer who had first detected humanity's arrival years earlier. She now wore the insignia of the Unified Defense Force, and her forearms moved with military precision, across tactical displays that would have been incomprehensible to her peaceful civilization just years before. What's the status? Chen asked, studying the massive three-dimensional map that dominated the room's center. Red zones marked areas where Devourer scouts had been detected, yellow indicated systems under evacuation, and green showed fully prepared defensive positions. The good news is that evacuation of the Outer Rim colonies is ahead of schedule, Velnar reported. The aquatic collective's transport ships have successfully relocated the populations of 12 worlds to safer positions in the mid-rim defense sphere. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as the Alliance's chief strategic coordinator, looked up from her own displays. And the bad news? Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving through the dark zone. The Devourer main fleet is approximately 18 months ahead of our most optimistic projections. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Everyone present understood what this meant. The defensive preparations they had been building for 50 years would have to hold against an invasion that was coming decades early. Admiral Marcus Webb entered the war room, his expression grim. Behind him walked High Counselor Marixka, her crystalline form displaying deep purple patterns that indicated extreme concern. The sight of the galactic leader personally visiting a military installation would have been unthinkable in the old peaceful era. General Chen, we've just received confirmation from our deep space monitoring stations, Webb announced. The Devourer Advanced Fleet has eliminated the automated sensor network in Sector 7. We're now operating blind beyond the mid-rim. Marixka stepped forward, her harmonious voice carrying an edge of steel that had developed over 5 years of war preparation. General, the Council has authorized the activation of Contingency Protocol 7. All remaining civilian populations in the outer and mid-rim will be evacuated to core world defensive positions within the next 6 months. Chen nodded grimly. Protocol 7 represented the complete abandonment of nearly 30% of galactic civilization's territory. Entire star systems that had been inhabited for millennia would be left empty, their populations crowded into massive defensive installations around the core worlds. It was a strategy that went against every instinct of the peaceful species that made up the Council, but 5 years of working with humanity had taught them harsh lessons about necessary sacrifices.
Hi, Counselor. What's the status of the deep core defensive systems?
Rodriguez asked. Construction is at 93% completion, Marichka replied. The fortress worlds of Nexus Prime, Crystalline Central, and New Geneva are equipped with shield systems based on human adaptive technology and consortium energy manipulation. Each world can theoretically withstand Devourer's assault for approximately 6 months. Theoretically, Webb emphasized. We've never tested these systems against a full Devourer fleet. Everything we know about their capabilities comes from encounters with scout ships and advanced forces. Commander Velnar highlighted a section of the tactical display. Sir, we're also receiving concerning reports from our alliance partners. Several species are beginning to question whether this level of military preparation is necessary. The Peaceful Alliance has requested permission to attempt diplomatic contact with the Devourers. Chen felt her jaw clench, a very human response that the alien members of her staff had learned to recognize as a sign of extreme displeasure. Commander, please remind the Peaceful Alliance representatives that we tried diplomatic contact 7 years ago. The Devourers responded by converting our diplomatic ship into part of their fleet structure. The crew members are still alive, but they're now components in Devourer computing systems. Doctor, Rodriguez pulled up a classified file on her display. Actually, General, we received an update on that situation yesterday. Intelligence reports suggest that the converted crew members have been attempting to send us messages through subtle modifications to Devourer communication patterns. The room went quiet as everyone processed this information. The possibility that human consciousness could survive Devourer conversion had been one of their worst fears confirmed. What kind of messages? Webb asked quietly. Tactical information mostly. Devourer fleet compositions, weapons capabilities, strategic priorities. It appears that human stubbornness extends to maintaining individual identity even under alien neural control. Marixka's crystalline form flickered through several color patterns before settling on a mixture of admiration and horror. Your species continues to surprise us, even under these circumstances. Chen allowed herself a brief smile. High Counselor, humans have a saying. The only thing worse than having us as enemies is having us as enemies who know your weaknesses. The converted crew members may not be able to resist Devourer control, but they can certainly make life difficult for their captors. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the war room. Every display shifted to red as urgent data flowed across the screens. Commander Velnar's voice cut through the noise with professional calm that barely concealed her panic. General, we're receiving emergency transmissions from Monitoring Station Delta 7. Massive energy signatures detected at the edge of sensor range. Estimated fleet size. She paused, checking her readings twice. General, initial estimates suggest over 10,000 vessels approaching at near light speed. Webb moved to his own command station, his fingers flying over controls as he coordinated responses across the entire defense network. All stations, this is Admiral Webb. Initiate Condition 1. Repeat. Condition 1 is now in effect. This is not a drill. Throughout the fortress and across the galaxy, the preparations of 5 years suddenly shifted into deadly reality. Evacuation ships that had been conducting routine drills now carried desperate cargo of entire civilizations. Weapon systems that had never been fired in anger powered up to face an enemy that viewed all organic life as raw material for consumption. Dr. Rodriguez was coordinating with scientific stations across the Alliance. General, we're getting more detailed readings on the approaching fleet. The energy signatures don't match anything in our Devourer databases. These ships are significantly larger than anything we've encountered before. How much larger? Chen asked, dreading the answer. The smallest vessels in their fleet appear to be roughly the size of our largest battleships. The command ships, Rodriguez paused, checking her calculations again. General, their command ships are the size of small moons. Marix's form had shifted to pure white, indicating shock so complete that her usual color communication patterns had shut down entirely. How is such a thing possible? The energy requirements alone would exceed the output of most star systems. High Counselor, Chen said quietly, this is what we tried to warn you about 5 years ago. The Devourers don't just consume individual worlds or species, they consume entire civilizations and convert their accumulated resources into weapons of war. Every species they've encountered in the past 1,000 years is now part of their fleet. Webb looked up from his command station, his expression grim. General, I've got updates from our converted crew members. The intelligence they're providing suggests that this isn't even the main Devourer fleet. This is a scouting force designed to test our defenses. A scouting force of 10,000 moon-sized ships, Rodriguez said flatly. What exactly does their main fleet look like? According to the intelligence we're receiving, their primary assault force consists of approximately 50,000 vessels, including mobile Starforge platforms that can convert entire solar systems into additional fleet elements in real time. The war room fell into stunned silence. Every being present had spent the past 5 years preparing for a war they now realized they had completely underestimated. The defensive plans they had thought would give them a chance of victory were revealed as inadequate against an enemy whose scale defied comprehension.
Chen took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders, falling back on the human response to impossible odds that had served her species throughout their history.
All right, people. We've established that our original plans won't work. Time to get creative. General? Velnar said hesitantly. With respect, our combined fleets number approximately 8,000 vessels. Even if every ship performed perfectly, we're outnumbered by their scouting force alone. Commander, you're thinking like a peaceful civilization, Chen replied. Humans don't win fights by having better numbers or superior firepower. We win by making the enemy fight our war instead of their war. Dr. Rodriguez was already pulling up new tactical displays, her scientific mind racing through possibilities. The Devourer's greatest advantage is their scale, but that could also be their weakness. Ships that large require massive logistical support, and they've been operating at the edge of known space for months. They must have supply lines stretching back to their core territory. Webb caught on immediately. If we can't beat them in direct combat, we make it impossible for them to sustain their offensive operations. Exactly, Chen said. We're not going to fight the Devourer fleet. We're going to strand it in the middle of hostile territory with no way to resupply, refit, or retreat. Marixka's form had begun shifting through rapid color patterns as she processed this new strategic approach. General, such a plan would require sacrificing most of our defensive installations to serve as bait for their advanced forces. High Counselor, it would require sacrificing everything except the core worlds, Chen corrected. We'll evacuate every station, every colony, every outpost between here and the Galactic Rim. Then we'll make sure the Devourers have to chase us through empty space, while we destroy every resource depot, fuel station, and repair facility in their path. And when they reach the core worlds? Webb asked. Chen's expression became the predatory smile that had once terrified the council representatives. By the time they reach the core worlds, they'll be operating on empty tanks with damaged ships and an increasingly desperate strategic position. That's when we spring the real trap. Dr. Rodriguez was already working on calculations. If we coordinate the evacuation properly, we could have every civilian population safely behind core world shields within 8 months. The Devourer advance fleet would spend that entire time chasing empty installations through increasingly hostile territory. Meanwhile, Webb added, our converted crew members will be feeding the Devourers false intelligence about our defensive capabilities, leading them deeper into the trap with every engagement. Marixka's color patterns had stabilized into something approaching admiration mixed with terror. This plan requires placing the survival of galactic civilization on a single, massive gamble. Chen nodded. High Counselor, that's what humans call Tuesday. We've been betting our species' survival on desperate gamblers since we first walked upright on Earth. The difference is that this time we're not gambling alone. As alarms continued to sound and reports flowed in from across the galaxy, the Alliance leadership began implementing the most audacious military strategy in galactic history. They would abandon 3/4 of known space to an enemy that had never been defeated, leading them on a chase through empty systems while billions of civilians fled to fortress worlds that might not be able to withstand the final assault. It was desperate, dangerous, and completely insane by the standards of peaceful galactic civilization. It was also exactly the kind of plan that the children of Earth had been preparing for their entire history. The war for galactic survival had begun, and humanity was finally home.